Almost fell. Hello everyone and welcome to the ultimate mega ultra hyper super test and review of the Kia EV6. We'll be testing range, consumption, power, how it's driving, charging, the space, and many more. But I think that's it. I'm just talking. If you want to support the channel, there are links in the description for Patreon and on here on YouTube. Channel membership, it helps a lot. And there's also merch like this beautiful t-shirt. I appreciate the support. Thank you very much. Let's talk about the specs. You can have this car with a 58 kilowatt-hour battery, usable will be 54 kilowatt-hours, or a 77 kilowatt-hours, usable 74 kilowatt-hours. Power, if you get the small battery, you can have a 170 rear-wheel drive motor. The big battery can have a 228 horsepower rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive 325 horsepower. In Germany, this car starts at 42,000 euros with the small battery rear-wheel drive. If you want the big battery, you have to pay 5,000 euros more. And then if you want all-wheel drive with a big battery, you have to pay another 4,000 euros more. When you fully spec the car and even get maybe this beautiful matte gray color here, prices go up to over 70,000 euros. And for 72,000 euros, you can get the Kia EV6 GT, which has over 500 horsepower and has everything included, just a few more things. I think the maximum price is 74,000 euros. The trunk gives you a lot of space, it's very long and deep, and you have a second compartment here and a little cover to close it. That's really enough space for most people. We have a small frunk that doesn't fit too much. The driver has enough space when it comes to length and height, as I would say this much headroom. I'm 180 centimeters, 6 feet. You're a bit close here to the front, so you notice that. That's because of the form of the car. But other than that, it's enough space. You have this little cushion here, and you have a middle console that's a bit harder, but still okay. Steering wheel of course can be adjusted in, out, up and down. I feel comfortable here and the seats are good and can be adjusted in any way possible. And you have memory seats. When it comes to space to put stuff, we have a biggest pocket ever down here. We have two cup holders here, your wireless charging for your phone, and then another compartment in the middle, under the middle console, and of course your glove box. In the rear you have your air vents here in the door, they're not in the middle. We have this little pocket. You can see the seat here in front is for my height, and it's so much leg room, it's amazing. I have the seat all the way down and I cannot put my feet under the seat now. There's still enough room, but if I put it up a bit then it's fine. I have seat heaters here in the rear. I have also a middle armrest and this soft thing here in the door, and this is comfortable. Headroom is not that much, I would say this much, but I'm not touching the roof. I have a nice light here, and I have two USB-Cs in the front seats for the rear passengers. The key looks like this. We have our normal on the side here. We have our lock, unlock and trunk opening. Of course you can get the emergency key out if your 12-volt battery would be empty. And on the other side here we have this self-driving, so summon, so driving a bit forward, a bit backwards, which you can do when you set the car in that mode. When you turn on the Kia EV6 and you press the brake and press the start-stop button, you get 5 beeps if you not have your seatbelt on right away. Other than that, you just get a little welcome sound. Gear change is very simple here in the middle. Driving it is very nice. It's very comfortable. It's quiet in here. The steering is great. It could be a bit softer for my taste, but that's fine. You have all the buttons, all the controls here that you need. The suspension is really nice. It's not too soft, not too hard, and I love that. Cornering feels good. The power is great. Really nice to drive, a lot of fun. It doesn't feel heavy. They've done really well. Regenerative braking. We have pedal shifters here behind the steering wheel, and you can adjust it from 0 regen, so you're coasting, to level 1, 2, 3, and even iPedal. iPedal is the strongest regen. It even brings you to a standstill, like now, whereas level 3 keeps you driving, so you have creep. Every time you put in the iPedal, you get a beep, and when you take it off as well. And every time you get into the car, iPedal is not on. It doesn't save that state. When you're on level 3, that's still there when you get into the car, but iPedal not, the strongest regen. This also happens when you are driving in cruise control. When you engage cruise control, iPedal will be turned off, even though I'm pretty sure that cruise control does its own regen as strong as it needs it. So I don't know why there has to be a message and a beep that iPedal is off, but that's how it is. And every time you disengage cruise control, when you had iPedal on before that, then you get another beep. If you hold the right pedal shifter, you get auto regen. What the car does then, according to your speed and the distance to the car in front of you, it adjusts the regen to the way that it thinks it should have. Of course, it doesn't see traffic signs or a light or whatever. What I notice with regen is also when you change it, first of all, you cannot change regen when you're braking, so when you have your foot on the brake. But when you change regen, of course, even when you're accelerating right now or you need power, if you don't let it coast, of course then you feel it. But even when you're just coasting, you feel there's a change. So it's always a bit of a jerking movement, and this is what the car does a lot. Cruise control, you activate it here on the steering wheel. It automatically sets it to your speed. Because I'm on the highway right now, it also engages the self-steering. That's the highway assist, but you can turn that off. That even on the highway, it just turns on cruise control, not the self-steering. But even if the self-steering would be on, you can always turn it off with your button here. And then with the button up and down, you can change it by 1 kilometers an hour. And if you press it longer, it goes by 10. The distance is underneath. It goes from 4 to 1. It holds the distance very well. It does it a bit jerky, the same as when there's a speed change, when there's a car all over. It's not the smoothest experience. There are settings in the infotainment system where you can change it. It can be according to your drive mode, or it sees how you're driving and puts it according to your driving style. But you can change it a bit, and then you can put on acceleration to low and response time and distance in there. again, even when you put this all on no acceleration and low response time, it's still a bit jerky. So it doesn't feel that smooth as I would want it to. Annoying is also if you have to go, let's say, from 70 because you're in a construction zone on the highway back to 130. Going this speed up takes a lot of time. So you press it and then it's 110, 120, 130, 140, 150. So it takes really a while till it does that. But other than that, the distance is held very well, and it drives very well. The self-steering, you activate it with the button here, or like I said, with the highway assist, it does it automatically. The steering overall, it does it really well. It doesn't bug you right away, so if you don't touch the steering wheel, you should always touch the steering wheel, but if for a second you have to get something and you can't, it takes a bit till you get a warning, keep hands on steering wheel, and then get after a while you get a beep and a red warning. You also get this, of course, in your head-up display. There we go. So what I noticed with the when you're just touching the steering wheel on the highway, you have to steer a bit. It's not just a bit of a touch. So if you really just touch it with very lightly, it doesn't recognize that you have the steering wheel in your hand. You have to steer a bit, and on a long trip, you know, you always have to move a bit, steer with the self-steering. That's just a choice that Kia has made. And then same with the drive modes. If I am in normal drive mode and I'm just cruising along with 107, and then I put it in sport, it accelerates. I didn't move the accelerator pedal, and if I put it in eco, it slows down, because the position where the pedal is for the car is different in the different modes. So when you're in sport mode, I don't know, let's say 10%, that means more power. Even I would understand it if I'm accelerating at the moment, but if I just cruise along with a constant speed, again, jerkiness. Then let's drive a bit faster on the highway. How does it feel like? How's the noise level and everything? Go in sport mode and go. Yeah, power is great. 150, 140 is, of course, it's a bit louder. 160, 170. I don't even know what the top speed is, to be honest. Let's drive 130. Okay. 120. Really comfortable and nice. 130, the same. Yeah, we did a trip to Munich yesterday, 2 days ago, at 130, 140, really nice. And you have to pass someone at 130, it accelerates really well. Let's do it like this. See what we get. 180. 190, and there it slows down. 192 is our top speed. That should be around 187 real speed. The speedometer shows around 4 to 5 kilometers an hour less, 3 to 5, so depending on the speed. Acceleration, I'm in sport mode, I have regen off, and I'm at 98%. And I have draggy running. See what numbers it will give me. We'll do this a few times. Nobody there, nobody behind. Wonderful. Stop and go. And 4.96 seconds. We're straight, full brake, Standing and full. .12. Other direction is faster. Do that again. Yeah, it's really pushing. It has a lot of power, that a good power, not oh my god what's happening, out of control. No, really great. I love it. And here you can see, by the way, that it's really using the 230 kilowatt that it has. And full. .17 seconds. Full stop. And go. Oh yes. 230 kilowatt. And 4.92 seconds. And it's valid. I did a little consumption test at 90 kilometers an hour on the highway, and I did this because this is very typical for a country city mix. So if you drive a country road and then a bit of city, then 90 kilometers an hour average speed is around what your consumption will be. I drove 108 kilometers, had an average consumption of 162 watt-hours per kilometer, drove from 83 to 61%, and that would be a calculated range of 495 kilometers. Now I did a little city tour. I drove almost 18 kilometers through the city, mostly 30 and 50, a tiny bit 70, a lot of lights. I had to slow down, accelerate again, turn around and stuff like this. And it was also one hill up and down. And my average consumption is 180. I drove 34 minutes for those almost 18 kilometers. I used 4%. That would mean 450 kilometers of range in the city when it's like this. Of course, this is hard to say because every little light, every little speed change is different. You can see even standing now it's going up because I had the AC on. 1.5 kilowatt and now 660 watt was the power draw of the AC. So this is of course very, very different, but it's very similar to the 90 kilometers an hour trip on the highway. I arrived with 4% state of charge, drove 286 kilometers, average consumption 250 watts per kilometer. Yeah, range is not that much, 306 kilometers in perfect conditions, but that's not that much with 74 kilowatt hours usable energy. This is a charging monster. We have an 800 volt system. AC, it can charge with 11 kilowatt. Technically, when you plug it in, it says 10.6 kilowatt or something. Still okay for AC. And DC, peak is 230 kilowatt. You might say, oh, it's a little peak and then it's over. And it is a peak and then it goes down. But over the curve, it's just amazing charging power. I have the curve here so you can see it charges amazing. And you also do not need to plug in at a certain state of charge. You can plug in a bit later and you still get that very similar curve. So it's amazing how it's charging. I plugged in at 50%, got 200 kilowatt right away here. Of course you need a charger that can do more than 400 volts. So a 150 kilowatt charger that can only do 400 volt, you only get 80 90 kilowatt or something. But here, this is a hypercharger that can go up to 1000 volt. I'm now at 223 kilowatt. Really amazing. When you get a special package, you can get an adapter, plug it into your charge port, and then you have here an outlet for devices, and it goes up to, it says here, maximum AC 250 volts, 16 amp. And there's also, when you have this, a plug in the car under the rear seats. The buttons, we have memory seats, we have our window opening and our mirror control. If you have this on the left or the right, then automatically this side will dip when you reverse. When you have it in the middle, it's off. We have our illumination for your instrument cluster infotainment system, trunk opening, charge port opening, parking brake engaging yourself, even though it does it automatically, and you can turn off ESC. We have our light control from auto to on, and our rear fog lights, our wiper control with auto function and sensitivity, our cruise control buttons on, temperature change, distance, self-steering, our music control, phone, favorite button, and the mode, what music you're listening to, and the voice command. Of course, our drive mode button. The two function screen here is okay. I noticed that I would like to keep it in climate but still change the volume, so I have to do it on the steering wheel. But that's not possible, you have to switch. And those buttons, you can just press them a tiny bit and they're on, but you have to be sometimes spot on. So, and I notice a lot of times when I come here and want to change the temperature, I press by mistake the auto climate because it's so sensitive. Yeah, this part here is perfect to put your hand here and then adjust the climate, because if you hold it up here, sometimes by mistake you touch one of those buttons and turn those on. The instrument cluster has all the info that you need. On your steering wheel you can switch between the pages and then go up and down. That's what's shown in the middle. On the left you have your speed, and it's also shown in a graph. And on the right, if you're using power or if you use regen. On the bottom you have your average consumption from your accumulated drive info. In this view you can see what motor is being used with how much power. Here's the assistance window. There we have our trip meter, and this is drive information. After recharging, which you can reset, accumulated info, which you also can reset. The drive info will be reset every time you stop the car for 3 minutes. So when you are on a long distance trip and you take a pee break, it will reset. And here we have our compass, or if you have a destination, then this will show where to go or how long it is and when you will arrive. The few changes with the drive mode: normal mode, in sport mode, underneath you have how much torque you're using from 0 to 100%, not the average consumption. The 4 drive modes, you press the button and you switch through the drive modes. If you hold, then you're in snow mode. I think this is less torque, but all 2 motors are doing something. In eco, only the rear motor is being used, and even if you push it. In normal mode, the rear motor is used if you drive normal. If you push it, it's both motors. And if you're in sport mode, then both motors are always on. But important, even if you're in eco mode and you drive with iPedal, both motors are doing something, because the high regen in iPedal comes from both motors in the all-wheel drive version. That means for lowest consumption, do not drive in iPedal. For the blind spot warning, you have a warning in each mirror. You have it here in the cockpit, and it gives you a camera on each side when you put the blinker on for the blind spot, and it is done very well. The head-up display is okay, it shows everything. What I noticed, and I have driven other Kia Hyundai cars, Ioniq 5, Ioniq 6 and a Kia EV6 before, and it was fine, but this one seems to be a bit blurry, and I don't know, if I move my head it's even worse. So maybe the windshield is not perfectly built with thickness, and so or the head-up display has to be calibrated again. Overall, it's, like I said, okay. I find at night, if I set the brightness to a way that I can see the speed very well, the speed limit recognition is extremely bright, and you cannot turn that off individually. You just can turn it off for the whole car. The head-up display also has augmented reality part, but it only uses it for your auto lane change, and when there's a car in front of you showing the distance. The navigation seems to be just set in a special spot, doesn't show like it's going in a special direction with how you're driving. The infotainment screen is also done very well. Our home screen shows our time, date, state of charge and our range, where we are, what the weather is like, and a little map that is a bit faded out. When you swipe over, you can see all of the things you can do. For example, EV, that shows you your range with and without climate. And when you go to energy information, you can set your charge limit, and you have your energy consumption window where you can see your instant consumption of driving, climate, electronics and battery care. Battery care is your heating and cooling of the battery. The map looks okay. If you're navigating somewhere, you can see on the highway, especially when you have to get off, it shows a big screen how the exit should look like, or when you have to change highways. On the side, by the way, you have different windows that you can show, and there's even a setting where you can turn them on and off. For example, your calendar and stuff like this is in there as well. In the navigation, what I have seen, navigating to something is fine. It does not add charging stops, so if you're going somewhere very far, it doesn't do that yet, but there will be an update where it will add charging stops, but I don't know how much you can specify that, so which charger, what state of charge and stuff like this. This software update is coming. You have special settings for your climate. You see your whole climate here. You can also see what is in, you can adjust your rear seat heating, and special auto functions if you need that. Android Auto and Apple CarPlay connects extremely fast. It uses the whole screen, which is awesome. What is a bit weird, to get out of this, you can either have to press your favorite button to get to your favorites, or you have to go down here and press a special button, map, navigation or whatever, or in the worst case you have to go to Kia. There is no home button in Android Auto here. It would be nice if there would be a home button and you just get back where you have been before. Navigating in Android Auto does not show up in the head-up display, and also not in your navigation screen in the cockpit. The 360-degree camera you can also turn on while you're driving. Let's look at the app. Kia Connect starts, takes a second. One important thing, it doesn't refresh automatically. So when you park the car, it does refresh, and then if, for example, if you want to see what's happening, if you're charging, you have to refresh yourself. But if you're just parking and you want to see how the car is doing, you can do it because it did refresh when you were parking. And you have all kinds of stuff in there. You can see the range, you can start the climate, lock, unlock, you can see the vehicle status, you have a remote where you can start the climate and everything, and open the charging door, close charging door, stop charging, start charging, stop climate, and so on. And here is our status. If you wanna do this, you can either use a pin or your fingerprint, and then it shows you where you are, your target temperature, range, and your state of charge. If scheduled charging is off, scheduled climate control, and you can see that the climate is on. You can see on the map where you are and where the car is. I don't know if you can see when the car is driving. Nobody else drove this car, so I could see. I should look when I'm driving. Sorry. Also cool is that you can see trips, so you can go in here. Today, for example, I drove Cindy to Munich. I can look from 7:51 to 9:02. That's 71 minutes, distance 115 kilometers at top speed 181. I pushed it, and here though it was on the way home, this is on the way there, 179 kilometers without a stop. And you can see that for other days, and you can see your average for this month. That's really, I drove 1272 kilometers already. Average speed is 42, top speed 192, because that's its top speed. And you have charging and energy, where you can set your charge limits, and you can see your energy consumption for the day, daily statistics. So for example, today I used 78 kilowatt hours, had an average consumption of 206 watt hours per kilometer, drove 378 kilometers, and I regenerated 10 kilowatt hours. Woohoo! And even your specific how much percent was driving and so on, and all in very great detail. So now let's look at the Kia EV6 in the dark. Normal light, brake, reverse, and fog lights. Without the brake. And of course, hazards. Then from the front, normal light, high beams. Is there fog light for the front? I don't think so. Oh, maybe here, no. There's no fog light for the front. In the charge port, you have the indicator of your charge that lights up. On the trunk, you have two lights that shine in the back, and there's one light here in the trunk. And the buttons are not illuminated. In the rear you have those two lights up there, but they're very, very bright. The ambient light in the front is here under this middle console, here in the middle, and then in front here. Up there are another three lights, also very bright. Every button in here that you can press is illuminated. On the steering wheel, in the middle console, here the wireless charger has an orange light. Everything is illuminated, and with this button you can change how strong the illumination is, from 1 to 100. Then everything is brighter, not just the cockpit and the infotainment system. There's a light in this pocket that illuminates the foot area on both sides. And there's one in the rear as well. Let's drive a bit in the dark. And now we test the auto high beam. You just have to have the light in auto, and then you put the high beams on. You just push the stock forward. Ooh, it fades in. I can see lines in the high beams. It's a bit distracting. I don't see cornering lights, do I? And the light doesn't move. Ooh, it's a big light. It's very bright, but the pixel lights don't turn off on it. Ooh, it reflects extremely. Ooh, yeah. It's 10 p.m. on a Friday and nobody is driving. Isn't it party time? It's warm too, 18 degrees. Yeah, we have someone in front and it turns off. Yeah, now I can see it nicely that it's on the side but not in the middle. That looks good. Yeah, but it doesn't turn off at the reflections of traffic signs, which are very, very bright. But now with this bike, does it recognize it? Yeah, turns it off. It's not a bike, it's a car with no light on one side. Now you can see it too, turns off. And you can see every element that's turning off. How is it to daily use the EV6? Overall it's okay, but there are a few things that are weird. Number one is the unlocking. So when you get close to the car, it does unlock and the door handles come out, but it takes a second or so. You have to be very close for it to happen. And the weirdest thing is when you use the trunk, open that. Oh, again, this takes a bit. And if you use the gesture control, so with your foot, it takes even longer and it beeps. But when you have used that, you're close to the car, you open the trunk and then you get around the car to get in, then it doesn't open anymore. You have to do it with your hand. Another thing that's a negative when it comes to daily use is preheating and pre-cooling. Of course you can do it with your app. It does it only for 15 minutes though. The car does not have a keep climate on function, so if you have kids or dogs in your car and you want the car to stay cool when you're shopping or something, you have to start it with the app and it only does it for 15 minutes, then you have to do it again. But it works well. And the weirdest thing is that if this car is not plugged in, scheduled climate does not work. So if you want your car warm in the winter every morning at 7 a.m. for example, and it's not plugged in, it won't preheat. It has to be plugged in for this to work. Long distance driving overall is amazing. Yes, the consumption is a bit higher. I did a 130 kilometers an hour test. There's an extra video to that, where my average speed was 123 and I only got 300 kilometers of range out of this car. And it was perfect conditions, not too hot, not too cold. I had the AC on at 22 degrees, but this car also has 20-inch Michelin Pilot Sport tires. Maybe they increased the consumption a bit, because other EV6 users told me that this consumption is extremely high for the EV6, but maybe they also don't drive 130 like I did. And it was 300 kilometers of range when you do a long distance trip and you want to drive 130. But what is amazing with this car is the charging. I have the charging curve here. It's amazing. I charged from 4 to 100%, and from 4 to 50% the charging power was always above 200 kilowatt. It's amazing. One time I was plugging in at 17%, walked the dogs for 20 minutes, came back, and I think overall it was 25 minutes and it was at over 90%. It's amazing. So a short charging session, 10 minutes gives you plenty of range, and if you charge from 10 to 80%, Kia says 18 minutes, that's no time for another 250 kilometers to get to the next charger. It's just awesome. And it drives great, it's quiet, and the self-steering is pretty good. Now it's time to rate the Kia EV6. I have a little scoring system here in different areas. Let's start with the control, how you interact with the car, the app, the buttons and everything. How is that? I give it an 8 because I love that I have, of course, this is extremely personal, all of this. Maybe you have a different opinion, but I have to start somewhere. I love that there's all the buttons that you can, the climate is right there, the seat heating, steering wheel heater, everything, there's a button. I don't have to go into a menu. I can turn off lane assist very easy, can turn on a self-steering on the steering wheel. The cruise control adjustment is okay. Overall, like I said, an 8. I like it. Driving, I give it a 7. It drives great, but it has a bit of jerkiness when it comes to changing the drive mode, and for the cruise control that could be a bit smoother. Regen can be adjusted very well. It's also very strong if you need it. I give it an 8 because the iPedal, it beeps first of all, like it's a warning, and you cannot have it on the startup. The same if you are coasting. If you have no reaching, you cannot have this on the startup. That's not so amazing. Charging, I give it a 10. Yes, AC only 11 kilowatts. Some people like 22. I'm fine with it. But 230 kilowatt, and like I said before, 4 to 50% over 200 kilowatt. That's just amazing. Daily use, I give it a 7 for the things that I just said before, with the locking and the not preheating when it's plugged in. But overall, driving to work every day, it's just very comfortable and very easy. That's just great. On the long distance, I give it an 8 because, like I said, with the high consumption, but amazing charging and quiet. Price, I give it a 7. It's not the cheapest EV on the market, but for what you get, I think it's okay. Power, I give it a 7 for the all-wheel drive model. The rear-wheel drive model will be a bit less. Again, it's for me, power, it's enough, and you can control it very well. You don't have spinning wheels. I haven't driven in the wet or on the snow yet, but power is amazing. Space, for space I give it also a 7. Trunk space is amazing. Rear seats, enough headroom and leg room. In the front I have enough headroom, but I feel like I'm very close to the front windshield. That feels a bit weird, especially when you pop down the sunshades. Not amazing. And the last thing is fun. The fun factor, I also give it a 7. Enough power, it's a lot of fun to drive and pass and accelerate a few times. It accelerates, by the way, amazing from the standstill. I'm just editing the video and I noticed I didn't give the Kia EV6 a score for night driving, and I give it an 8. The interior light is amazing. I would have loved to have an illuminated button for closing the charge port outside, but it's fine. The low beams are okay, and the high beams are nothing special. That's why an 8. So overall, I give it a 7.6. Again, this is just my personal opinion. As you can see, overall the EV6 is an amazing EV, and still in 2023 I think one of the best EVs out there. Drives amazing, charges incredible. I had a lot of fun with the car. Thanks to Kia Germany for lending me this car for 2 weeks. It's a press car. It was amazing. But that's it for me. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great day and take care. Bye.